Good morning. Please join me in our responsive reading, number 547, Summer Meditation. Now blows the wind with soft, relaxing warmth. Children swarm in the playgrounds and the streets, and eager city folk, vacation-bound, crowd the broad highways. What of ourselves? There could be now deep peace, a time for soul searching. To sift the true from false in the things of doubt. The sun beats down, it is a time for pause. And shall not we? Here's the unfinished clay, half molded, that still waits on us. There's a saying from the Hindu Vedas proclaiming speech as the essence of humankind. And all of that which humankind thinks and ultimately becomes is determined by the expression of ideas and actions through speech. The spoken word has great magic because our words can either construct or destruct, as they can be used to both build and destroy. History tells us that all great people are often remembered as much by the words that they spoke than the lives that they lived. Words simply are. It is how we use and what we bring or associate with them that creates the end result. Ideas remain unactualized until they are created through the power of speech. Because the words we speak, either aloud or in the privacy of our minds, embody our intentions. They are a carrier of ourselves, our energy. From Gandhi and Eleanor Roosevelt to the late Steve Jobs, people have provided words of inspiration in ways to live our lives. Words of wisdom are left behind as guideposts from great men and women, from Jesus to Kennedy and King Jr. to Rosa Parks. The tenets of Buddhism are founded on correct speech, because the Buddha tells us that one who is disciplined is wise, because discipline requires control of the way in which we communicate through speech. Your own Reverend Peter signs his correspondence with words from the Greek philosopher Plato, which calls us to be kind, for everyone we meet is fighting a hard battle. Now, in what better way is there to be kind to one another than in both word and deed? Nothing can affect, motivate, or empower as much as the right spoken word. Like the words of the Dalai Lama when he said, and I quote, "My religion is very simple. It is kindness." Now, almost anyone is warmly affected by the very thought that kindness in and of itself can be called religion. Words can divide, delude, hide, and mislead. But they can also unite, enlighten, and reveal. Words can both bless and curse. However, when used creatively, words lend voice to the voiceless and express what we sometimes feel, but are able to find words to express ourselves. Spoken words in the form of poetry has been an oral art form going back to the time of Homer, reading the Odyssey, and continues to be a popular form of expression from the high school auditorium to the stages of Broadway. A form of spoken word called poetry slams has been a roadway and have become popular over the past decade. So much so that these unknown poets have graced the Broadway stages. The slam performance usually consists of a theme. All performances must conform to a specific genre or a formal constraint. However, the beauty of these poetry slams is that they can feature a broad range of voices and styles and cultural traditions and approaches to writing and performance, which is their intended purpose: to lend voice to individuals who would otherwise never be heard outside of their individual communities or peer groups. Poetry became popularized and caught the attention of people in marginalized communities as Black people struggled for their civil rights during the turbulent times of the 1960s. Again, the art form of the spoken word was most prevalent because it provided a way for the average man and woman who never thought of themselves as poets to express the pain of oppression through a common spoken language that would have otherwise lay dormant. It served a dual purpose, as its feelings were expressed through the individual speaking, and as the listener became inspired to become activists for their constitutional rights and freedoms as American citizens. The spoken word celebrated diversity in gender, body image, as well as race. Now, one such noted poet, Philadelphian Sonia Sanchez, rallied individuals through the spoken word as she called out to all who would listen: brown, black, yellow, and white, gay and lesbian. She called them to come wrap their feet around justice and tongues around truth. Because, she said, it's time for freedom. It's time for racial and sexual justice. Now, words like those of Sanchez inspire people from near and far, including many Unitarian Universalists who died fighting the good fight. The memories of James Reeb and Viola Louisi are a testament to ways in which words inspired. Oppression and marginalization continue to flourish in our communities, including racial and gender oppressions. In 1998, an organization called Move On was started. And while it began as an email group, petitions began to be passed around, and by word of mouth, it gathered 500,000 signatures to impeach then President Clinton. Now, since that time, over the years, Move On has called for everything from arms inspections rather than an invasion of Iraq, reinstatement of lower limits on arson and mercury pollution, and campaign finance reform. It even called Facebook to change its controversial new Beacon program, which notified Facebook users about purchases by people on their friends list. Now, since the 2000 election cycle, the Move On PAC has endorsed and supported the campaign of candidates, including the 2008 candidacy of then Senator Barack Obama, who was the presidential candidate. Now, like it or not, the words of the organization have been heard and moved on. The inequality of members of our LGBTQ communities still remains a despicable disgrace in many ways, particularly when applied to marriage equality. But most recently, the word came that Governor Corbett would not stand in the way of constitutional rights in spite of his personal convictions. But just as words are spoken calling us to action for changes to be made, the reverse is true in other instances with the irresponsible use of words. Most of us have heard words spoken that we've become outraged by in their negative power. You only have to turn on the 6 o'clock news for the results of words that are hurled thoughtlessly from the tongues of politicians, clergy, and sports figures to understand this. Paula Deen's inspirational life's journey from struggling young mother to famous Southern cooking television star will always be overshadowed by her reported use of racial slurs. And despite their stellar performances on the football field and the basketball court, whenever anyone mentions the names of Richie Incognito and Matt Barnes in the future, we'll first recall their careless use of hateful words. All of the success that Donald Sterling achieved in his entire life will be overshadowed by his highly publicized racial rants. Unspoken words are left hanging in the balance between the believer and the non-believer on the subject of religion. Because all individuals have definitive reasons for being part of faith communities. Some come to be in the company of familiar friends. Others come to find new acquaintances. Still others come believing that some words in worship will work magic and all pain will disappear. Whatever your reasons are for showing up to be in this company, the words spoken from this pulpit, whether by ordained clergy or by lay leaders, the words have power and require careful crafting and attentive reflection in the delivery. It requires stamina and diligence to keep this living tradition of ours, this living organism, alive and flourishing. If we are to go forward, we must go back and rediscover those precious values that all reality hinges on moral foundations, and that all reality has spiritual control. And if the intent is to build a thriving community, a community filled with people who want only to be known for concern about freedom and justice and prosperity for all people, if the intent is to truly create an environment that feels welcoming to all, we have to be careful about the words that we speak. We cannot change others. We can only change ourselves. We can make a choice to pass on negativity or positivity in our speech, because our words do matter. They are powerful. Relearn to say, "I'm sorry," because just as the works that you do will live on, so will the words that you speak. From my heart to yours, may it be so.